Hi, welcome to this episode. Today I'm talking with Simon Mourton, who served with 3RHA in the late 90s. He completed tours of Northern Ireland and Kosovo, along with extended deployments to Canada. It was on one of these postings that he met his future wife. Once he left the military, Simon emigrated to Canada and has now become a Canadian citizen. Today Simon talks about growing up in the military, along with his basic training and life within the regiment, also what it was like emigrating to Canada and now living there. Like this podcast or the previous ones, please consider buying me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Frankie'sPod. It just goes to help fund the software and the hosting. Hi, welcome back to this episode. For any members of listening from D Barry, this might be a surprise for you. I've got Simon Mourton talking to me today. How are you doing, Simon?
Not too bad. Still living the dream.
Right, so what we'll do is we'll do what we usually do, and that is I should ask you the initial questions, which is where did you grow up? Why did you join the army?
Okay, I grew up in Peterborough. Well, I say I grew up in Peterborough. That's where I was born. However, my father was in the military, so he did about 47 years, colour service as well as doing additional reservist stuff at some training depot somewhere up in Edinburgh, and so basically we moved around all the time. So when I got out, I actually moved back to Peterborough before I emigrated.
So what made you join the army then, apart from your dad being in the army?
Well, it was strange because, like, when I left home, he was with 50 Missile at the time, so he was AGC, so he was paid clerk and then staff sergeant, and then so I actually moved back to the UK, stayed with my grandparents, and I ended up working in retail, just finding any old kind of work. I worked actually for Burton Industries, menswear clothes store, and then I kind of started getting bored of that. So then I started messing around doing like CB radios with one of the guys that that I worked with, and it was like, so that kind of piqued my interest. So I started looking at the avenue. I was like, well, I'll give the army a go. It's got to be a minimum of 3 years I've got to do. I'm like, I'll give it a go, see if I can get through basic training, and then see how it pans out. So then I went to the careers office, talked to the guy, and then I was saying about communications. He says, "Oh, well, there's a thing called Gunner Comms." So like, okay, so I'll see about that, and then and then that's how I kind of went to the careers office, and next minute I got pushed towards artillery.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like the recruiting sergeant was a artillery man.
Yeah,
So
I have no clue. My
yeah.
memory is like it's over 30
So
odd years ago. It's like
yeah,
I
what
can't
year was that
remember.
then?
That was 92, and
92.
the funny or the ironic sort of thing is that's where I met Stephen Restoric, because he was from Peterborough. So I actually met him here in the Army Careers office. We got chatting. We sat there and did the test together and a lot. We shot the breeze. We hung out a bit before we got the train down to Woolwich, and then we went to different troops when we got to Woolwich, and then we both joined third after we did the basic. And of course he went J.
Yeah.
I ended up going D. And then but no, we used to hang out once in a while.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that, to be honest. So what was basic training like for you? Was it a shock to the system? Was it?
Well, being a military brat, I knew that all the bullshit was going to be coming. Being a skinny guy, because everyone knows that how fat I really was. I weighed about like 100 pounds. I was about 8 stone, if that. I'm 12 stone now, but I weighed about 8 stone then. I couldn't do half of this sort of stuff. However, I had the right mindset. So what I did is like when I initially got into the gym when we first sort of like got checked all in there. So they're all like do the usual thing. Oh, did your mum send you out for a pint of milk and you just fucking got lost and you found your way here? That kind of garbage. But then they're all like heckling you all the time, like like squaddies do.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, you're not going to be able to do this. Freaking might as well just go out the door now. That kind of sort of stuff. Well, that just made me more determined. So what I did is, so then it's like press ups. Well, I've never really been one for press ups. I did the minimum amount. And then so we got that done. So then when it got to the pull-ups, they're all like, fuck yeah, can't do press-ups, you'll never do pull-ups. I've got no body weight. So I just kept going and going and going. He basically just turned around and said, get that off of those bars now. Because basically I made him look like a twat, and it's just like, yeah. So there's basically just having that mindset. And running, I had no issues with running. I'd been practicing in the streets with a backpack full of, heavy weights. Don't know how much it weighed, but it was way heavier than what we were usually going to need to do. But
Yeah.
doing BFT was no problem around the parade square.
So what about your trade training?
So basically, so did I go? Did I become into flaggy and that lot? No, they put me on the guns.
Yeah.
So 105 millimeter howitzer. Usually the number 2 doing the wheel, and then the odd occasion as a layer. It's like, so basically that's what I did. I actually injured my my knee because what it is like, just before we're getting ready to go on the exercise, they thought it'd be big and clever to try and get me to bench a 96-pound shell. So basically, for whatever reason, my right knee kind of gave way, or it was like popped out or something, and I had to go and get some physio. So I ended up going on to the exercise. I can't even remember what I actually did at the exercise. It was something, but not actually, on the guns, or partly on the guns, and then something else, before I finally passed out.
So going to third, did you pick the regiment, or was it picked for you?
Yeah, me and Steve, basically, because we were both from Peterborough, which is East Anglia. Then the 3RHA was East Anglian Gunners.
Yeah.
So you guys were all based in Colchester. So it was kind of only a few hours down the road. So we both decided to head to third. Like I say, when we got to third, I ended up going D. He ended up going J.
And did you see a big difference between training and man service? Because it is different.
Oh, heck of a lot. Although basic training, it kind of gears you up to what's going to happen. Yeah, you're going to be shut around. You get it. Once you got to the regiment, you're not getting messed around as much. But then there's a heck of a lot. You got to try and like team build, and you got to kind of get familiar with the rest of the guys, because you're the new guy. They've all been around. They know each other. You've got to try and either get your foot in the door, or be the grey man, and not give too much of an attitude. Otherwise, you're going to get a beating.
Yeah. And there was plenty of people around who could give you it as well.
Well, funny, that's how I got out to Northern Ireland. Because the regiment was training for Northern Ireland at the time. So basically, I was put onto rear pie, but within about 2 or 3 weeks, I know within the first month, I think it was, a couple of the guys, I won't name the names because I have no grudge against those guys. They decided to come back from watching an England football match, totally wasted, kicked my door down, and laid into me. It was only Cole Colson on the parade square the next day. He's like, "What the hell happened to you?" It's like, I fell, I tripped, I injured myself in the barracks. Bullshit. He just kept hounding me, threatened to jail me if I didn't tell him exactly what happened, who did it. They ended up getting 28 days. I ended up getting called to see the CO. I was 19 at the time. So it was like, he turned around and says, like, are you, how about going to Northern Ireland? Are you all right to go to Northern Ireland? I'm like, yeah, I have no problem. I'm in the army. I'll go where you need me to go. So I ended up getting moved over to D Battery over in Auckland, and because Arrowsmith broke his ankle, so he got sent back, and then I ended up replacing him.
How did you find that tour?
Well, I was the grass. I was the one that got 20 guys 28 days. So basically, bit of a shit stick. So basically, I just kept myself quiet, did what I was told, tried not to give attitude, just played the grade man. However, here's the jimpy, here's the sifter, here's there was an antler, all the heavy shit on your back, climbing the fence, good old disco legs. But that built my upper body strength. But a lot of time is about I use my legs, to pick up that weight, and in Civvy Street now, that's exactly what you do. You're using your weight with your legs and not your back, and then that is helped me carry that extra weight that I couldn't even carry. But it kind of built me up a bit, but kept myself quiet. Good money saver, and then by the time I come back, I think I got a last R&R, and then that became a sort of thing with me. So anytime we were deployed anywhere, I'd always pick the last R&R. So basically, I've done most of the tour. I come home, and then I've only got less than a month to do, and then then index.
So once we come back from, because we went, where was I? We just joined the regiment while you were in Ireland. So I'd come from 47.
Okay. Yeah.
And all the lads from like 50 had come and 49 and everything like that. So we were there. So we moved up to Topcliffe soon after that, didn't we?
Yeah. I remember when we got back there, we did some training because that's when I got my advanced guns. It was Mick Chalk who was doing there, of course. Every time I fucked up, he'd have me doing press ups. So basically, he's the person that really got me to be able to do at least a press up, and then 10 press ups, and then 50 press ups, and then fuck it, run to the top of the hill and back again, because he was, it was like, your press ups are shit. You're not going to learn. Get to the top of the hill, and then back again with the friggin' with the what's name with the something above my head. Fucking it's like whatever. It's like character building.
Yeah. Sounds like a theme you've got going on here. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what was next for you then?
So once we got up to Topcliffe, then I ended up actually getting I joined Sea Battery to come out to batters, but I didn't actually do the exercise. I became 4 Charlie's driver. For those who don't know, 4 Charlie is the SMIG. So I'd only not long passed my driver's test. So then he basically just anytime I fucked up, he'd twat me across the head with his helmet. So basically I learned to drive pretty damn quick, or just work my way across the prairies. I really enjoyed that exercise. It was a lot of the time back at with the Red Tops, back in their accommodation, and then going out every time we sort of deployed. And then I really enjoyed Canada, and it was like that was my experience before I come back. And then of course back to training again. But I think we then deployed to Kenya those years in like 95, and then of course in the winter of 95, then we were back to Northern Ireland again.
So what did you find that one?
That wasn't too bad. See, that was a different role, because like before, I was with a multiple and various places and got passed around whenever they needed guys going on. I'd switch to each of the different teams, and so then it's team building with each of the different crews and just trying to fit in or just trying to do the job. This tour actually was in ops room, so it was in Keady initially, but because I'd done patrols before, what I used to do is halfway through doing the tour, I decided to give guys a break from each of the multiples. So on my days off, I'd go out on patrol, just so I can get out and about, and so I can get at least some color in my face, and then allow the guys to have some days off, and actually a day off from the usual routine. And I joined each of the various multiples. So that was Burt Baker's multiple, that we were doing there, and we'd go out on the patrols with Lindsay Coulthard and a few of the other guys, and then towards the middle of the tour and the end of the tour, I ended up going down to Middletown, with Bert and his crew, and then of course when John took his own life, and then I think it was the same day there, the Mark 15 mortar was abandoned, so everyone bailed. I was in the ops room, all bunkered down, ready for the bang, but nothing came of it. It didn't discharge. We all got away to tell the story.
Yeah, it was a bit of a shit time. It was a busy day for you. I mean, the week before that, Stevie had been shot, and then Coops took his own life. And it's this time of year. It's in a few days' time. His memoriam, and I always think about him. I think about him a lot, to be honest, because I knew John from the tug of war team. I wasn't deep Harry, but I knew him from the tug of war team. He used to come down the gaff on a Sunday every now and again for Sunday dinner. I think about him a lot, to be honest, man. So yeah, it was a bit of a shit time for the regiment. That it was like a week or 10 days of everyone's like in shock and stuff like that. But you've just got to get on with it as it is,
Yeah. With John is like my good memory with him, and it makes me laugh still to this day. Apart from the other thing, and I'll say that in a few minutes. Like we were out in the US, opposite exercise Punjab West, I think it was. We're in Yakima, and so not only the fact that the guys made a snow penis out the side of the camp, and the Yanks thought that was freaking hilarious. They couldn't understand that we were doing boxing training at the time. course, me being bantamweight, it took, I think it was Hunt or something, it was the only guy from Eagles Troop could get down to that weight, and he was at the top end of that weight. So him and I was the only ones that ended up fighting. But while we were doing the boxing training over there in the US, the Yanks couldn't understand that we were boxing against each other and people at a higher weight. So with John, and this to this day, this is how I remember John. Every time we were boxing, me and him were in the ring. He'd have his hands up across his face, then he'd open his hands up, and then I'd smack him in the nose. I'd move, we'd do the same thing. He'd open them up, I'd smack him. He'd never learn, and he just kept happening all the time. Well, that kind of thing must have been how Eddie Walsh, was in the ring with me, and then of course everything I didn't do right, you felt the full punch of Eddie Walsh, and it's like, yeah. So you learn to take harder punches, so that whatever punches you do take were easy.
Yeah.
When we actually did the actual final boxing finals, back in the regiment there, it's like I swear to God, this is like I got into the ring, and this is all I have of my memory of that boxing. I got into the ring, I heard the bell go, and then it's complete silence. I have no memory apart from stopping from round 1, round 2, and round 3. Everything was completely blank. I don't know whether I threw punches. I obviously took punches, but I have no memory whatsoever of boxing. But I went 3 rounds. So I must have done something, or I just stood there and just took punches. I don't know. I wish someone had done some photographs or could tell me what actually happened that night, because I have no clue.
To be fair though, it's just you just end up in like your own little world. I mean, I've done it in training, and then I've done it when I got my first regiment. And to be honest, I'll never do it again. I didn't like it. I didn't like getting hit. I mean, I wasn't very good at it, and I didn't like getting hit. Been in plenty of fights, but that was different things. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
What happened after Ireland then?
So after Ireland, I think I ended up coming out to Canada. I think it was around about like '98. I ended up coming out into Canada and as gunline safety. So basically, I was Zulu 4-2, and we were only supposed to come out here for just like a few months. But the master gun at the time, Andy Sherburn, he within the first month we were there, was like, "Will you guys extend to the end of the year?" And it was like, it was me, Mac McDonald, Craig Watham, Rog Crooks. We were from the regiment, and then so we were out there. We're like, sure, So we all extended right till the end of the year. So that didn't go down too well with Cliff Coggins, who was my BSM at the time, towards the end of the year. But there's 2 reasons why that didn't go well. Because in November, when I was on my R&R, I went to Hawaii. And I sent a postcard to Steve Cassidy and Butch. Hey, having a great time here in Hawaii and that lot. Of course, that must have fucking got his goat, because I was tapping the carpet as soon as I got back to the regiment. And he's like, well, you're not been with the fucking battery. You're getting sent to the HQ battery, and you're going to Lucina West, with Danny Hobbs and his crew at the FTC step up. I'm like, okay. It was nothing. But that year that I spent over here in Canada was fantastic. One reason, I was in Canada, I really enjoyed the job I did. Andy Sherburn taught us so much. We were calculating how long an aluminum shell would be in the air for before the next one would land, and we were doing that mental math in your head. I have no clue how to do it now, but at that time, that's what he was getting us to do. We were calculating where the rounds were going to land before the AFDCs would calculate it, or the guys in the crews would be able to calculate the math. We knew exactly where it would land. Call in safe target circle. Yes, it's safe to do it. We've got all the response before the calculations had already been done. But the second reason is, within the first month of me being here, that's when I actually met my wife. So, a few years later than that, we end up getting married, and I end up emigrating.
I was going to say, what was it like that got you over there? Because I couldn't remember. Again, I wasn't in the same battery. I wasn't sure when you'd actually met her or anything like that. I mean, I knew you were married to a Canadian girl.
Yeah. So initially, it was like so when I actually left after we'd been seeing each other for the whole of the year, I wasn't sure how the relationship was going. Was it just someone there? it was a girl I'd been with. Couldn't find a girl back over in the UK. Never, no one was ever interested in me. You know, so basically, it's like this person was like she took me for who I was. You know, she's not the slimmest of girls, but she's not also the biggest of girls, and there are some big girls across here. And then, but no, it's just like she took me for who I was, and we got on so well with each other. So when I left, of course I went with Danny Hobbs over to Lucena West, for the Bosnia tour, and then again when we were back up to Kosovo, it's only when I went out to Kosovo on my R&R, I actually came back over to Canada. I got all the guys a list of guys wanting to get GPSs, so I went to Walmart, bought a whole load of GPSs, shipped them back to myself. So by the time I got back, they arrived, and then gave the guys the GPSs, took the cash. I probably haven't been paid for a few of the guys, but it is what it is. It's stay normal for me. Everyone came to me for money, because when their money would run out, I always seemed to have money, in the bank. And even though I was up to my elbows in debt, I've learned to get out of debt, pretty quick.
So what was Kosovo like? Any memories of that?
Well, Kosovo was pretty good. It's like we used to go out running with a few of the guys. We'd be out that way. I know there was one time we had a big op went down there, and I got with Mick Sheehan. I was only supposed to be his driver, but as soon as we got to the side of this hillside and we were down in the woods, all of a sudden his radio went tits up, lost comms. So me being a DCRI flaggy, freaking instant radio there, made a relay, and I became a relay between him and the guys on the ground and the ops room. Great time. And then I used to do recce as well. So basically, it's like I'd be out there in the field, going to the various sort of places, and then doing the gunline recce. So it's like I got the chance to go around to see a few of the places, and then also some of these massive great big camps where the where all the HQ was and all things like that, and then multinational people were out, and then all of a sudden they asked me to write a Klansman PowerPoint presentation or a course that they wanted to be running for the HQ guys. So I wrote this all up. I had it all on my laptop, pulled it all up, did a whole lot of this sort of stuff up, got it ready done within a few days, and they never did kind of roll with it, but that was kind of interesting. I just kept myself to myself. I used to always sell my phone cards, because I kept myself to myself, never really contacted family. The only time I did contact the family is when Steve lost his life. After the ban was lifted, and all the restrictions were lifted, I phoned home just to make sure everyone knows that I was okay. But they knew that, if they hadn't heard anything, it obviously wasn't me, because I think the media only reported it was someone from 3rd RHA from Peterborough. So that kind of got my sister a bit freaked. But it's just like, But in Kosovo, by that time I was seeing my wife, seeing my now wife. So then I decided to give her a call, and I just chatted with her each time. So it's like I kind of thought, so this is what the guys, why they wanted their phone cards, and a little bit of a morale boost just to keep that. It's more of keeping reassured that things were going okay, whether they were or weren't. It's irrelevant. You just tell that it's okay. You deal with it as a soldier.
So you mentioned earlier before we started recording something about an exercise in Canada.
Yeah. So I won't name the year, and I won't name the soldiers involved apart from myself. I think the statute of limitations has probably expired now. 22 years I've been out, so I think I can get away with it. So with me being over there, Canada for a year, when I got sent across for one of the Medman exercises, and that's the only one I've ever actually physically done. They're one exercise. So me chatting with a person for the FTC, from Red Tops, he was just coming back from getting a photocopy of what is known as an MEL. For those of you who don't know what an MEL is the main events list. Basically, how the exercise is going to play out. When you're going to get attacked, what's going to happen, what's the expectations, so on and so forth. So, me, being me, I got a copy of that MEL. So when I got onto the exercise, I stashed it in my binder. Well, me being me as well, porn at the front, work with the documents in the middle, and then MEL hidden towards the back. So the distraction is the porn. Everyone grabs my folder. They just stop at the porn. They never get to the work-related stuff, and they never ever got to the MEL. So for that whole exercise that we did out for that maid manor, we knew when we were going to get attacked, when we were going to get gassed, when the gun line was going to get it, when recce, what the expectations were. So that exercise we did, and we outshone everything because we had the upper hand. Well, look at what the military is all about: intelligence gathering. I gathered intelligence. I kept my mouth shut, kept it quiet. Minimum amount of people needed to know. Minimum people needed to know, and now anyone who listens to the podcast is going to know. But hey, what are you going to do? Put me back in the military?
So you were coming towards the end of your time in the army then, really?
No, well, not necessarily. Because what it was like I'd already done my Landstacks course, and I was already a Landstack from our I was promoted just to the end of the second tour, and then so I came back from Northern Ireland as a Landstack. I did go away down to Woolwich again. I think it was 2-2 Air Defence was down that way, and Boise was down there doing his Landstacks course, and then I was there doing my Force course. I still to this day have never seen my results, and there's nothing on my military documents to say I ever attended that course. So I don't know whether I was shit and they just didn't do one, or they failed to send it to the unit. I don't know, but I felt my kind of career had stalled. I requested a BC interview, and then I went and chatted with him. I says, "What does I actually do, sir? When I go to this country, I'm on the guns. When I go to this country, I'm a signaller. When I go to this country, you put me survey. Here you have me do this and this." It's like, what is my role? I don't know what my role is. In hindsight now, I never thought of inter-battery postings. I never thought of regimental, different regimental postings. I did request a 2-year posting to Batters because I fully enjoyed my time out here, but they wouldn't let me do that because my OC was saying, "Is like, well, all you're going to do is you're going to do your 2 years and then you just get out, or you're just going to stay there." It's like, well, why not give me what I want for my career? So I denied it for a while. I talked to my fiance at the time, and I said, "Well, I'm considering possibly getting out." So, and then I decided to sign the dotted line. Did my tour of Kosovo. I think we were on the Macedonian border at the time. I think it was about a month left to go, and then what's his name, Dick Booth, said, "When do you want to go?" I said, "Well, whenever you want to release me." It's like, no. When do you want to go? So basically, it's like, when do you want to leave? So then, I ended up coming back to the regiment, booking a resettlement course, did telecommunications in North Lincolnshire. I went to the college there. We did a few months at the college there, and then I came back to the unit, just as we for the parade, and then dekit, and then just as I came there, a quiet grey man. When I left, no goodbyes, no nothing. The guys all just sort of disappeared on leave. I disappeared, and then that was me a civvy. So I ended up.
It's a bit sad, that, isn't it? When you'd expect some type of, not a fanfare, but I mean, it was the same for me when I left. I did 27 years, and the day I left camp, I don't know what I expected, but I thought at least somebody would have said goodbye. You know what I mean?
What was it? After I actually emigrated, so I was back as a civvy for about a year or so back in the UK. Did all my paperwork for immigration. It only took 8 months. Basically when they told me to jump, I jumped. Go get a medical. Well, there's only like 6 places within the UK. You have to go there, and it's like a few $100, a few £100 or whatever to go and do it. It's a specialized clinics. You had to go book an appointment, turn up at that day and time, or whatever. It's the same as being in the military. You're told when to go, so you turn up and you go. So I did all that. Paperwork came back. Now, bear in mind, I was already married. So when I got married, I stayed with my wife for about a month, and then I came back to the UK, and I never saw her again for 8 months. So basically, I was back in the UK living, paying down my debt. She finally paid the last little bits of my debt off. We got a loan, and then she paid my final debts off before I finally emigrated. Had a quick party with like friends and families at home before I emigrated across, and then once I got across, then that was it. Back with my wife again, and then start my new life in Canada as a permanent resident.
How different's Canada to the UK then?
It's hard to say because the only UK memories I really have is like was military. I was like moving around all the time. Although, you know, one thing that's major different. If I was walking down the street here in Canada, we just say hello to anybody and everybody. You're walking around the park, you're walking out, hey, how's it going? How's your day? You do that some in the UK, they're ready to fight you. It's just like what's it? It's like, well, what's with the attitude? Garbage, or litter. UK there'll be a litter bin, garbage can. They'll be right there, and then the guy will throw it onto the floor. Here, the Canadians will see garbage on the floor and pick it up. There's even guys that walk along the highway in the median, picking up the beer cans and that, and then taking to recycling to get it done. They put a fluorescent vest on, walk the highways to keep the place clean and tidy. So the culture difference is just like it's totally strange, but in a good way.
Yeah. I mean, it's more expensive over there, isn't it?
It is in a way, yeah, because I know back in the day, it's like the British pound was something like 2.5 times the Canadian dollar. Now the Canadian dollar is like freaking monopoly money. It's probably like 10 times as much as It's absolutely the devaluation is really bad. So as a Canadian citizen, and I was here like 10 years before I actually finally did my citizenship. And then the irony of it is like one of the questions on on the citizenship: when is it acceptable to beat your wife? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No.
But I was going to say, was it multi-choice?
Yeah, I wish it was. But no, it was actually a multi-choice question. Most of the questions were. I think it was something like 50 questions. But it's like you sit there and pretty much before you leave the building that you've passed, and then I end up going to the town hall or whatever, and the mayor, congratulates you, and then everyone stands up and you got to sing "O Canada," like, oh crap, it's like, quickly Google it, learn a few of the words, mouth the rest of it, and just play the game. But it's just like I learned so much about Canada that I'm never ever going to know, and more than a lot of the Canadians even know about themselves. It's just like you had to learn about every single province because any of those questions could have been asked there. I did all online. I downloaded apps to do test your Canadian skills and stuff like this, and it got me through. It's like a pass is a pass. That's all I care. It's like you got in. I didn't have to do it again. I'm now a citizen. I've been over here 22 years now.
So, is there any similarities between Canada and the UK?
The Queen was the only similarity. No, the government structure is pretty much the same. So basically, it's like House of Parliament, MPs and so on and so forth. That kind of thing. Prime Minister instead of like a president. It's so those kind of thing, and the democracy side of it is exactly the same. The trades and all that kind of stuff, and then it's pretty much
what about
the same kind of thing. It is like a commonwealth.
Yeah. What about like social security? Start again. Social security stuff like the NHS. What we've got here.
Oh yeah. So basically, it's like we have Alberta healthcare, and the various provinces have their provincial healthcare. So basically, money comes off your taxes, and you get free healthcare. You do have like most of the companies that have like what we call group benefits. So basically, your optical, dental, and then your life insurance. And then you can do pension plans. So you can have government pension plan as well as company-based pension plans. They do match like RRSPs, retirement saving plans, and locked-in savings plans, and then some companies match it. Those companies that really care about their employees have those kind of things. Others, it's all based on however many employees work for the company. the company pays less amount of money. So the more they have, the less the company pays in. And when it gets to the point of where they let guys go or they lay the people off, then the company ends up having to pay more of that in. Well, when you're only getting like 70-80% of any of the benefits back, sometimes you have to pay the cash up front, and then you get reimbursed the money. Sometimes it's automatically deducted and it's 100% deduction. So they do that. Sometimes you have to pay a deductible. Pay an X amount of money to be able to have those kind of benefits. But when it costs them like nearly 110, 120 bucks to just go and get your teeth cleaned, half of these Canadians have got all these braces and all these jaws wired up and all this sort of stuff. It's like, that's thousands and thousands of dollars. My father-in-law just broke a tooth the other day. It's going to cost him $6,000 to get just a temporary cast, and probably another 8 to get the full things remade. It's like, I'd go without a tooth than pay that money. It's like really absolutely ridiculous. So if you want to make some money out in Canada, become a dentist.
So going back to your military time, so what's the most outstanding memories, funny memories, or anything like that you've got?
Oh, funny
or
ones.
anything? I'll put it a different way. Is there anything you miss?
The military. It's like it's funny you say like discipline. Working with civvies, it's like herding cats. It is absolutely. You pull your hair out, and that's why I cut my hair short all the time, because it's like they don't listen. They want to do it their own way instead of the way that you've all been taught, or what the way is supposed to be, like your policies, procedures for making sure everyone's safe. And some companies just don't even care about like disciplinary action if things weren't done right. I end up leaving a position in environment, health, and safety for an oil and gas company, because the general manager for that company just turned a blind eye when one of the guys got involved in a drink driving incident. Another time he turned a blind eye when a guy did a hit and run, struck a vehicle and then just took off. Totally done and cocked, as in like freaking out of his tree with freaking on drugs and drinking. But there's no accountability. Well, the law's changed, so where I'd be responsible for it, and I could go to jail or have a fine because I knew about it and did nothing about it. He'd go to jail and lose company and all that sort of stuff. But so I had a discussion with him, and he just kind of shrugged it off. It's like, no, I can't work in an environment where you're basically turning your eye to safety, because we work in the H2S environments. So basically, guys running there holding his breath to go and get test results instead of putting his H2S monitor on. And when it alarms, you just back off and you get out of that environment, or just clean air the area before you actually get into that environment. Or like taking shortcuts. It's going to cost people their lives. So the worst thing about when I did that, because I was seen in the government's eye as being quitting, my unemployment was completely cut. So basically, you have to accumulate in Alberta. You've got to accumulate 500 hours, so pay in 500 hours worth of employment insurance to even be able to qualify to claim unemployment. So what they did is I'd built up all those hours, but because I quit, they said I could have discussed it further with my manager, and a resolution could have been resolved. So basically, they zeroed all my hours. That screwed me over. I had some like 22,000 in the bank. I went through that whole of that money through a 5-month period, and I got within 1 month of losing my house. When I just because of that stupid mistake of me quitting, trying to find another job. I finally got a job, and then all I did is I just stayed for 4 months in Saskatchewan, living in a hotel. Never came home, and then I just kept the company going while 2 of the guys went off to Australia to visit family, and when they took vacations, and I just kept everything all running there. But I was kind of managing some subcontractors as well as doing a bit of field work at the same time. I was basically just representing the company, keeping the company going, and then I got laid off from that. So then back on, at least I can claim unemployment this time. So I've not quit a job ever since. I do get laid off. There's slowdown in work. Situations change, policies and procedures change for various companies. Big layoffs for some of the major companies. So that has a knock-on effect for the subcontractors. I've always been like a subcontractor, to a major company. But I work to a company. I'm not my own company. I'm not my own contractor.
So, what are your best memories of the army then, back in the UK?
Basically, the camaraderie and some of the stupid shenanigans we used to get up to. It's like towards the end of my tour, in the military, is like Bert put me as barman, for D battery, and then me not being a big drinker, I thought I'd match the guys when we went rounds. They were doing red eyes, vodka and Red Bull, and then so they'd buy the rounds and they get to me, and of course I'm the barman, so it cost me nothing to do that. I knew how to make the extra money behind the bar. Well, then there's like, oh, come on, close the bar up, come downtown. Usually I'm the guy that was driving and taking people downtown. I'd stay sober and I'd be the designated driver, and I'd take guys downtown and pick them back up, get them back home again. But no, I'd hung one on with these guys, and it only dawned on me the following morning, what the fuck did I do with the cash box?
Right.
I had no memory of what I did with the cash box, and then I was like, so then the panic there. So sobered myself up, went over to the guard room, talked to the guard commander. Hey, how's things going? He's like, oh man, he's like, I shouldn't have hung one on with the guys and all this stuff. He's like, yeah, you were looking worse for wear when you came in. Oh, I came in. Well, what time did I hand the cash box in? So I checked the ledger, and that was like, fuck, I'm glad I fucking handed it in. I thought I took it downtown. I thought we'd fucking spent a lot of it. And I was just like, yeah, no, sobering thoughts. But there's a few times, there. One night that I do remember. Well, I say I do remember. I've been told this is what happened because I used to drink Pernod and Black. So basically about 9 o'clock, by about 9:30 in the evening, I have no memory whatsoever. And I've done this 4 times where I have no recollection of the rest of that night. I know we were trying to hit on some. It was me and Kelly Sherwood, the late Kelly Sherwood. He's passed away now, I think from cancer. So we were down in Newmarket on a Cape tour, and then we were hitting onto these Australian girls, and then we had to wait till the club had opened. And when the club had opened, apparently I was talking to myself in the mirror. I was hitting onto girls in front of their boyfriends. We were walking down the street, and apparently it's like 2 in the morning. I was walking down the street, and it's like, and I was missing garbage cans. I was missing street lights and all this stuff. I was cognitive of what was going. I even guided the taxi driver from Newmarket all the way back to the barracks, to the exact barracks where we were staying. And I have no memory of this whatsoever. I was told the following morning by Craig Wattham. He found me unconscious, hugging the toilet, puked everywhere, so bright red everywhere, and I make sure it's not blood. And then it's like, he told me about this. I went to try and look for it the following day, and then it's just like, I couldn't find any of this. We then bailed into the vehicles, got out to the ground, and then I think it was Paul Bates. Captain Paul Bates was there, and Rosie Garthwaite with the officers at the Cape tour, and he'd mentioned that he just had his ass chewed out by the what's name, by the what's it called, QM, because of the state of the barracks and all these washrooms. And I was just like, I'm like, oh fuck, I think that was me. So basically, I marched up to the table, saluted him. So I believe I'm the one responsible for that. I've been made aware that it's out of character of me to get that wasted and all that stuff. So he kind of says like, well, the fact you just owned up, all I had to do is just stag on that night with the vehicle. So it's not really a punishment, but yeah, we're just a bit of a restriction of what I can do and going out, to do that. It's like but no, that Cape tour was a really good thing. I met a few people there. There's one of the schoolgirls that I met down in London. I'm still in touch with her now. She's married, she's got kids, she's up in Scotland. We still have a laugh and a joke. And I even managed to reconnect a girlfriend I had back when I was my dad was in Gibraltar. So it's like, found her on Facebook and we got chatting. She ended up marrying a guy in the military, as most of the Pads brats do. And it's just like, so it's like, Facebook is how I keep connected with people around the world, and and I'm not on there all the time, and I'll put the odd stupid post up there, but it's just keep keeping up and seeing what other people are doing and what's happening. I'd love to get over to a reunion or a PPMA one time.
Yeah.
It's just money's not right, and it's just the timing's not right.
Going back right to before you joined the army, because I forgot to ask this, and I should have asked it earlier. So, what was it like growing up in the army? Like you mentioned Gibraltar there.
Well, I have two younger brothers and an older sister. So every time we moved somewhere else, we basically we were our own best friends. So that made us pretty tight. Now, we did all sorts of freaking, as kids, you do everything. Back in the 80s, you went out at the beginning of the day, you came back at the end of the day, and you'd always be late. We messed around on the army training grounds. We messed around in the freaking barracks, on the ranges. As kids, compost grounding. We'd go to the compounds and all that when the paras are back off the exercise. We'd go up there and get all the compost that they were chucking out, this is a funny story. So we'd come back from one of the para barracks. We were walking back with a bag full of freaking goodies, porn and freaking and chocolate and all this sort of stuff. And then all of a sudden, woo! RMP pulls over. Male and female get out. So what the guy is doing? It's like, oh, we were going back here. It's like, have you been in the barracks? Says, yeah, we just got a few like food from the soldiers and stuff like this. It's like, okay, so what's in your bag? Oh, just the food and all that. So it opens up, porn mags in there. So the female RMP says to me, he's like, so what do you do with these? And me being freaking quick-witted, I read the articles. Well, the fucking pair of them just fucking pissed themselves laughing. It's like, get the fuck out of here. It's like, and then they were just like laughing as they got back into their car and took off. It's like, these guys aren't up to no good. And then we just went into the woods, started a massive big freaking fire, cooked up the bacon burgers, read the porn, and then carried on our day. It's just kind of, and there's times where it's like we had each other's back as well. So my youngest brother, we're all fairly sort of skinny. My youngest brother was being picked on by a kid. So he told us about that. So all three of us went round to the guy's house, knocked on the door, asked the person's parents for the kid to come out. He came out there. It's like, is this the guy that hit you? It's like, okay, smack him back. So my youngest brother smacked him the once. Okay. And then from that day onwards, we were all friends. So it's just like, don't mess with me and my brothers because we'll come after you. But we were, until we made friends in those new areas, we were basically, had each other's back and we were our best friends. So it kept us pretty sort of tight. Now, my youngest brother, he's 48. He still lives with my parents up in Scotland somewhere, up near Glen Eagles. I think that's where they live now. And my other brother, he's some kind of surgeon, kind of intensive care nurse thing over in Germany. So he lives in Germany. They live in Scotland. I live in Canada. My sister still lives in Peterborough.
So you don't keep in touch that much then?
I'll call my mum maybe once, maybe twice a month, or sometimes every second month. Usually on a Sunday around about noon. They're finished having supper and all that. And then I'm just in between sort of doing things on the weekend, and we'll chat. We do keep in touch on Facebook, and we chat with each other once in a while on WhatsApp. Usually stupid photographs or dumb shit, as brothers do. Hey, I've just found a picture of you, and it's a chimp scratching his ass or something like that. Or my brother just sent me some weird picture of him going in doing this in some kind of like fancy dress and all stuff. It's like, okay, it's like whatever you do in Germany, that's your own business. It's like, if money's tight, you don't have to work the streets. You rib each other and that kind of sort of stuff. But for him being in when Brexit happened, that was a big concern for him because I think he's only a permanent resident. I don't think he ever has got a German citizenship. So there was a possibility he could have lost his job and had to get out of Germany. Right. But he is well up there with his established. He apparently, I don't know how he's done this, but whatever field of expertise he's got, all of a sudden, these various German hospitals want his expertise, want him to come to that. They're like headhunting him, and he is only in Hamer, so where 50 missile regiment was in Menden, so he's still in that area, and it's just like he's come such a long way for a guy that has no clue and no knowledge and didn't give a shit in school. All of a sudden, he's right up there. We all do all sorts of various different things. Youngest brother's just as general labourer. I do telecommunications, and he's in this medical field. He learned all of this in German, had no clue about the body and all this stuff, and now he's learned all of this and has excelled in this field. So obviously, when you find your passion, you find your passion. And
that's some passion, right? Yeah.
Oh heck yeah! He's and my daughter's just the same. She's just finished college 1 year to do a healthcare aid, so she aced that. They want her to come back and actually teach at the college, but she's doing extra education to do extra math, English, and science because she's looking at going into nursing. As a registered nurse. They're pulling in like 40, 50,000, 40 or $50 an hour. So it's like basically my mission is like she can buy the house, she can take over the mortgage, and then I'll eventually retire, or just sit and do nothing, and she can pay her wage, but she's a character, she takes after me. I taught her life skills. The wife taught her everything else she needed to know in life.
How to cook.
Yeah, well, she cooks and she's doing her stuff. Me and her, we just go out on adventures. I taught her the life lessons: improvise, adapt, overcome. Shape, shadow, silhouette, and shine. And then what's the name? How to bull her boots. So she went into school one day. She decided to bull her shoes. So basically, her shoes were like glass. That got recognised by teachers, and the students, and all of a sudden, people were wanting to talk to her. So basically, it's like a real social butterfly. And then she just kind of like, wow, and she's smart as a whip. I'll sass her and do something, and she'll come back with a zinger right back at me.
Yeah.
And what can I do? I've just got to take it because you got to take as good as you get.
Yeah, true. Right, so here's a question for you then, what I forgot to ask you earlier. So now that you're a Canadian national and are a Canadian, and you live in Medar, what do the locals actually think of the squaddies that come home every 6 weeks and that?
It's kind of a strange question because their attitudes have changed, both positive and negative. So now with the batters kind of closing down, a lot of businesses are hurting, because they needed the revenue that Suffield was providing. The guys coming down, they're getting wasted at the bars. There have been so many bars shutting down, like the Sin Bin. That's been shut down for the longest time ever. It's getting turned into like an arcade / mall / business kind of center. So like downstairs is like a bit of a mall, then offices above it, and then apartments above that. There's been cases like a lot of arson sort of things where people have been burning down a lot of these bars. The ones that still exist, Silver Buckle, that's still freaking live and kicking. As a nightclub as well as a place to go get eaten, good old shit kickers bar. Place that Prince William likes to visit. Ralph's. That's a Western kind of bar. They do have a few, regular kind of music, but it's more of another shit kickers bar. But when Prince William, when he kept coming across here, that's the place that he'd go to all the time. And of course all the girls there to try and marry a prince. But then you got the other people that remember back in the 80s when they were young, of all the fights and all the things like that. So some do have a bit of animosity towards soldiers and anyone who's British. Others, bygones and be bygones. A lot of them probably hate it just because most of the soldiers took their girlfriends while they were still dating them.
Yeah.
and then just left, and they've got to deal with the fallout. But no, generally sort of speaking, it's like they hear the British accent, a lot of them are more like fascinated with it, because it's a change from the normal. A lot of the time it's like, are you Australian? Are you South African? And that kind of sort of stuff. But no, it's like the mindset is definitely changed from what it was back in the 80s and the 90s.
Hmm.
Now I think they've got more used to it, but and like I said, it's like they're all hurting now that the Suffield's kind of closing down, and then people are slowly but sure like pulling out. From what I understand, from what I've read on the media and things like this, and um, I don't even think they're going to be using it as like a training area anymore. It's not even like Canadian troops are going there.
It's a shame because it's such a good area.
Oh, it was fantastic. If you couldn't read the map, you were fucked. You know, I know they
Yeah.
had all the towers and stuff like that, and and your GPS is all programmed out. But when you look one way and you see nothing but prairie, and you look all around and you see nothing but prairie, you start walking in that wrong direction. That's a survival of the fittest. It really is.
Yeah. I mean, I remember my first time going out to Canada was in 1987. 1987, yeah. And it was just mental. I mean, I think I got one night downtown, and it was just crazy. Absolutely crazy. I've never seen, I was only a young Christ, I wasn't, I think I was 18, 19, and it was just mental. Introduced to the sin bin, cheaters as it was called then, and woke up in the local police station. So yeah, I lost my R&R, and then went back out of Canada again years later, and it was kind of different but the same. The sin bin was still open. It wasn't as rowdy, because this would have been about what 2004, five, I think it was. It wasn't as rowdy or as loud as what it was from what I remember. There was still plenty of fights going on because I remember coming out the sin bin and we were all lined up against the wall outside, and the Canadian police were like looking round at everyone saying, "Was it him? Was it him? Was it him?" We were like, "We haven't done that. It wasn't us." But the warnings we got for going downtown, you had to be on best behaviour and stuff like that. It just, it's better, really. It's better, Well, it wasn't people getting filled in every 5 minutes off people. But it was definitely different. But it's sad to see that with the closing, that the town that I didn't realise Medat relied on bars so much.
Oh yeah, it's mainly the bars, but also a lot of the stores, like in the mall. So many have come and gone because their revenue was primarily from everyone from Suffield. Because the Canadian dollar was like 2.5 times that, so everything's like half price to a squatty that are
Yeah.
coming across. So it's all the designer clothes, their their deodorants and aftershave, buying all their electronic gear and all this sort of stuff. It's like it's half price. It's like and all especially all their like the clothing and all this sort of stuff. But then a lot of the bars, like all the strip joints and all like you mentioned cheaters and then down in the bottom of the bin there, it's like all of those. Um, one of the older women, they call them is like kind of like a like city council kind of person. Um, she's a big religious person. She shut down every single strip bar in Medicine Hat, so there's only one strip bar anywhere around in Redcliffe. So just basically drive from Suffield. When you hit your first set of traffic lights, turn right, and then you're you're at Redcliffe. Yeah, easiest to swim. Bear in mind, you've driven 35 minutes to 40 minutes, to get to Medicine Hat, and as you know, down that frigging prairie where you look one way and you see where you've come in, and you've also go into and where you've just come from at the same time. Very ominous, very very barren, but yeah, it's like that's the only place that's still going, and if anyone goes there. And all it is all college girls just trying to make a bit of extra money to put themselves through tuition.
Yeah.
And then most of those college girls, I still bump into some of the girls that were bouncing. I don't know if you remember, there was a girl at one of the clubs, Chrissy, massive big girl and a lot, heart as gold, nicest person in the world. Some of the girls that I used to hang with, because of course I used to hang with my wife, and of course then I'd be around a table of 10, 15 girls. So then all the guys come up to me to hang to try to get with these girls. A lot of them have passed away. It's like cancer has sort of got a few of them. Some have had other sort of like medical conditions and all sorts of stuff, and they're in their like early 30s. And unfortunately, their life was taken and cut short. And it's just but those fantastic memories of going to the bar, interacting with all the locals. Some liked us, some detested us. Well, look at Ezzy's, big shit kicking bar, not a lot. We were all banned from going there, but we still all tried to go there. Somebody set light to that. Arson seems to be the way to get rid of a bar nowadays. It's just like there's so many bars that have been torched. The Corona, one of the ones we were definitely never allowed to go to because there was that heavily Canadian population, and they just want to fight for the sake of fighting. I remember on the Medman exercise there, we were getting ready to deploy out there, and Woody, he ended up going there, and then freaking he never came back. He stayed out there. He bought himself a guitar. He was playing live music, out there until he got busted by the girl he was seeing out there. She shopped him to the RMPs, and then they come and picked him up and brought him back out onto the prairie to join us to play war.
Right, I think that's coming up to our hour then. It's been great talking to you. Is there anything else you want to say? Send any messages to anyone or anything?
No, it's like, hey, keep checking out Frankie's podcast. Not a lot. I've been looking at all of those, even to people who I don't know. I've never really been one to be interested in podcasts, but it's a person I know and a subject that's still fascinating today. And hey, pull up a sandbag and swing that lamp and shoot the breeze.
Yeah, and that's hopefully we have more to come. A lot more to come. I mean, there's a fair few that won't come out yet, but we'll keep them going. I'd just like to thank Simon for taking time to come on the podcast and share his story. If you like this episode or any of the others, please share them on your socials. Please also leave a comment. It really does help the podcast get noticed. Well, thanks for listening, and I hope you look forward to the next one. Bye-bye now.